Deadline today. Is that the deadline? Oh, maybe that's for the FBI.
Yes.
Can you just give us some sound on that? Because that's a big deal. That's within hours about that 5 p.m. deadline per the ransom note.
The deadline is today. Can you tell us about that? Because that's within hours from now, and then there'll be an escalation of the threat. Let me check with my colleague. Let me check with my shoe buddy. We love the same shoes. And we're the same exact size, so we borrow each other's shoes. It's weird. It's a thing that we do.
And then what's supposed to happen after that?
The sheriff's not even wearing shoes. Look at that. He's got like tactical gear. Everything about this sheriff is bad.
And then what's supposed to happen after that?
Those are so fucking casual, and does that matter? I mean, I think so. I think if you're the sheriff, you shouldn't be wearing just sneakers that are the same color as regular shoes. That's cheating. And you look like an adolescent that's trying to get out of wearing their school uniform. That's what you look like, Sheriff.
So the ransom note that make a demand for 5 p.m. today, and if a transfer wasn't made, then I think a second demand was for next Monday. We're not going to go beyond that, but that was the ransom note.
Well, you're not going to go beyond that. It took you a bit of effort to get there. I think there was a ransom deadline for today. Yeah, no, that's confirmed. It is 5 p.m. And I think that if that wasn't met, then there's another one for Monday.
The media received.
Did it indicate what would happen if they didn't need that ransom? Did they?
I tell you something. If I was Savannah Guthrie about this case, I would be standing on somebody's neck, right? What do you mean, think this, that, no leads, nothing? Who am I going to talk to? Sheriff, get the fuck out of my sight. Who's going to get the job done? How much does it cost? Savannah Guthrie, national treasure, the jewel of America. I'm amazed that she's putting up with this. Me, as a nobody-nothing civilian that barely talks to their mother, I'd be pissed off. I'd want to be talking to someone.
We're not going to go into those specifics. Thank you.
5 p.m. Eastern, I'm sorry, I know it's not. Arizona? It's 5 p.m.
I don't.
It's 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Eastern? Why would it be 5 p.m. Eastern? Why would you send a ransom note in Arizona and then say, yeah, the deadline is midday, Greenwich Mean Time in London. If you're in London, Lisbon, or Johannesburg, it's midday. But depending on your degree of latitude, just add or subtract hours as you may need to. But Greenwich Mean Time, midday, 12 o'clock.
And then, sorry about that, Inside Edition, Jim Ray.
Special Agent Yonke, given the fact that the FBI participated in the creation of this family video, does that suggest your belief that the author or authors of that ransom note, in fact, have Nancy Guthrie?
Again, we're taking the ransom note serious, and we are following that part of the investigation.
And does the fact that there is a ransom note suggest to you that Nancy Guthrie was taken specifically because she's Savannah's mom?
There's nothing to indicate that.
Thank you guys so much for all of your questions. The sheriff does have just one more note about what happens next year.
That's a good question, right? There's nothing to indicate there, apart from I mean, her money. Yeah, should we kidnap this old lady with a daughter worth $40 million, or your average Betty Sue down the street?
Or what doesn't happen next?
Well, it's what happens for us is we're going to continue working. For you though, I hope this worked out well for you. But right now, I have no plans to schedule any further press conferences unless we have some real evidence or something to bring up to you. It's pretty pointless to just keep hounding the same things over and over. And as
What are you saying, that we shouldn't expect to hear from you because you're going to make no progress worth reporting? Is that the sentiment of what he has just said? Because that's how I take it, which is shocking. He should be saying, as soon as we resolve, as soon as we get this taken care of, we're going to come back and tell you what a great job we did. You know, maybe not that self-elevating, but don't come up and say, listen, we don't really expect to make any significant progress worthy of reporting to the media. So you're not going to hear from us for quite a while.
Special agent in charge, Yankee said, please give us some space, and that's not just physical space. Give us some space, give my team some time, because these things do take time, and they are difficult. And everybody out there is really working hard. And mistakes are going to be made, and if I made them, mea culpa. It won't be the first mistake I've ever made. But more important than me is we want Nancy back. That's the key. Okay? So thank you very much, and thank you for your concern in this.
Thank you. If you're looking for the other person that was up here, it was John Edwards, Jon.
My word, what network does she work for?
Your concern in this.
Thank you. If you're looking for the other person that was up here, it was John Edwards, Jon.
Just wonderful upper arms.
EDWARDS, Assistant Special Agent in Charge.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I was jumping back to
Okay. Sorry about that hiccup in the stream. I need to check if we're even online now. This is part 2, I think. How do we do that? We go and check on the system. We love the system. Oh yeah, people did come. Good. 15 of them. Okay, well. That's something. Maybe there shouldn't be a part 2. Have we got anything else to do? Is there anything else to cover? Why don't we have a look at this property, what is it? Property, hang on, let me pull it up. Brenda. Well, thank you, Brenda, for sending us this thing. Just fucking save. Fuck up. Motherfucker. Okay, this one. And this one. Durable power of attorney. know all men by these presents. That Rollo Tomasi, the undersigned principal, hereby makes what is it? Continues, and appoints Anne Pierce Guthrie, agent, my true and lawful agent for me, with the power, authority to act in my name, place, and stead, and for my use and benefit in any way which I myself could do. Keone, Tomasi Keone, that's his name. That I myself could do if I were personally present to set, convey, purchase, acquire, mortgage, or otherwise encounter, transfer in trust, to borrow money and execute and deliver. Therefore, loan money and receive moles? Moles. It's Arizona and she's 84. Fuck knows what's going on in her mind. I want to receive 30 moles and 6 and blah 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 blah. Okay, I mean, what am I reading into this, Leah? It's a note for power of attorney. And I guess everybody's looking at that like it's the most sinister thing in the world. Oh, they did it for the money. They wanted to sign away her house. This is standard, like, normal shit, right? Isn't it? I don't know. I don't find it shocking, to be honest. She's 84 years old. She doesn't want to have to deal with paperwork. I'd say that this is normal. I'd say that this is well within the range of normal thoughts to the community. What do people think about that? I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think that shows anything sinister. I do think that it was Annie and Rollo Tomasi that killed their mom, but not because of this. This is nothing. But thank you for sending it. We appreciate it. Oh, this is the wrong comments. We need to go back. Pop out chat. And then... Oh, fucking... I don't know what happened to that live stream. Crazy life. This one. So what do people think about this power of attorney? Leah, where are you? Oh, Kelly, hello, how you doing? No, part one was so much better. But there was this strange issue. I have a feeling Rollo Tomasi and possibly Annie will be arrested very soon. I don't know. I'm online. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Rob Mitrano. Brian. Celia. Kelly again. Violet and lavender. What are we talking about? Shades of purple. No, I never watched Dexter. I tried. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you gotta watch it, you gotta watch it, you gotta watch it. Oh, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good." And I watched the first episode and I thought, fuck off, I don't give a shit about this. And now I can't watch anything with that actor in, because there's this really good movie called Cold Day in July, I think it's called, but it's got that Dexter guy in it, which is unfortunate. The same thing happened to Game of Thrones. For Game of Thrones, people say to me, "Oh, this is so good, this is so good, this is so good," and I'm like, has it got a dragon in it? Because I don't want to watch anything with a dragon in it, okay? Don't care. Is Dexter brilliant? I mean, you know, it's. I don't believe you. I don't believe that. There's only two things that you need: Frasier and The Sopranos. And if you have those two things, the rest can just get out of here. You're nothing. People go on about Breaking Bad. Oh, could Breaking Bad be the best ever anti-hero? No, Breaking Bad was good, but it was made for children that have never dropped acid. You know, it's like, forget it, leave it, walk away. And then Better Call Saul, that was good, but I've only watched it once. If something is good, you watch it again and again and again, and each time it's different because it's a reflection of how you interpret your own place in the world. That's what makes a good television show. It's not entertainment, it's work. It's self-work. So fuck all of them, basically. So what can we do now? Something Guthrie, right? The Wire. The Wire. I've never heard of that. Acapella. God. Where have you been? Frasier. Right now, I think I'll do that. I am starving. I gotta eat something. Maybe I should just have an egg and watch Frasier instead of talking to all of you. What can we do? What can we cover? There's got to be something else to do with this case, right? Guthrie. We did the sheriff. He's horrible. He should die. He should be stripped of his uniform. Guthrie abduction. What I wanted to do was... Okay, we'll take a look at this. 9 disturbing new details.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her.
Major new developments in the case.
Just bizarre, this case. Return our mother to us so we can celebrate with her. And, you know, I think Who was it that said it yesterday? I'm sorry, I forgot. But somebody said that they're talking about the celebration of life, as in a funeral, right? Some people find it more tasteful to think of it not as a mourning of loss, but as a celebration of their life, right? Return our mother to us rather than set her free or let her go. Return the body, isn't it? That's what they're talking about. They either what they're worried about now is that the kidnapper and murderer has kidnapped their mother. Their mother's died, and that in an attempt to avoid arrest, they'll just ditch the mother's body down a mine shaft in the middle of Arizona, and they'll never be found. That's their concern, right? They're now only hopeful for getting the mother's body back, which is ridiculous. You think anyone's going to do that? Go to the effort of carrying dead weight 84-year-old woman, putting her in the trunk under the pressure of getting caught by authorities to drop off a corpse? Yeah, I'm really hopeful. I don't think she'll be found. She's down a mine shaft. And it was probably the sister and her dipshit Rollo Tomasi husband that did it. To get even with Savannah, right? After her fame, after her notoriety.
Of Nancy Guthrie, her children, posting another video to her possible kidnapper. Law enforcement was also spotted inside Savannah's sister's home overnight. Media saw flashes of light from a camera going off inside. And for the first time, one of the TV stations, which reportedly received a ransom note, revealed just how much the price may be. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. All right, let's get to these major new developments in the case of Nancy Guthrie. So it appears, based on a video posted to Savannah Guthrie's social media overnight, that the family has decided to pay the millions of dollars that kidnappers reportedly requested in an alleged ransom note. Here is that video.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
And you look at that video and you can just see
Just look at these faces. I don't see unity between anybody here at all. And Savannah's always doing this thing where she's leaning forward. And that's fair enough. But there's no togetherness. There's no sense of togetherness other than the fact that they've been they're facing this situation as a unit. As a unit without unity, right? There's no love here whatsoever. And I just think I think it's quite common where if normal nothing people, one of them gets into be the jewel of the nation, and the other siblings are like, I don't know, hold it against her, have their own insecurity, like a bit like Ringo, okay? I think that Annie and the brother over there, they're like Ringo to the Beatles, right? They spent their whole life going, hey, why aren't I as talented as that other person, as Paul and John? They are the Ringo of Savannah Guthrie. And that's the sort of thing that eats away at you for years, right? Eats away at you for years until one day you snap and you say, well, I'm going to fucking kidnap my mother and get my golden sister to pay the ransom, and then I'll finally be able to get that Tesla. That's the only explanation. And I don't mean to push like speculative theories, but tell me what other version makes sense in any way, because this version, speculative as it may be, does make sense, right? Just let that sink in. Sister in particularly jealous, and you know how husband and wife, married couple are. The sister would be attending some family function with her husband, Rolo Tomasi. And then it'd be all very polite, happy smiles. But as soon as they get back behind closed doors, can you imagine what Annie was saying about Savannah? That fucking jewel of the nation, bitch, sister of mine. Do you know how many years I've had to put up with this worship of that bitch? You know, that kind of thing would be well within the range of normal for this kind of extraordinary family. And they're only extraordinary because of Savannah Guthrie, jewel of the nation, apple of the eye. That scenario where they've been festering in this jealousy and this rage, and then the husband's having enough of hearing about it, so he's like, well, let's do something about it. What are we gonna do? Well, let's kidnap the mother and get your bitch sister to pay, then we'll get the Tesla. And they're like, well, what if she dies? Oh, who cares? How many years has the old bag got left anyway? That kind of thing. We'll make it painless. That makes sense. So what are the other scenarios? The mainstream scenarios that some gardener came and ransomed the money? No, that doesn't make any sense. It'd be goddamn easy to track, wouldn't it? The FBI would track that. You think a gardener is going to stand up to that kind of pressure? Tell us the truth! While they're hitting him in the head with a phone book? That doesn't make any sense. And then the thing about someone having this weird, collector fetish for old people. Yeah, I want to make a lamp out of their old skin. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense to me is the speculative theory that Annie over there was in a jealous bind, a rage and a bind, and just said, fuck it. How many years has the old bag got left anyway? Let's try and get a couple of $1 million out of that bitch sister of mine. And two birds with one stone. After my mother dies, I don't need to have any association with my sister. We'll disappear the body down a mine shaft. It'll never come back to us. We'll use Bitcoin so it's untraceable transfer. I mean, maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's not correct. But I think it is. Possibly.
How exhausted the Guthrie family looks. Obviously understandable with everything that they have been going through for now more than a week since Nancy Guthrie was allegedly taken from her house in the middle of the night near Tucson, Arizona on February 1st. So now I want to talk about what we have learned about these alleged ransom notes. And it does appear that law enforcement and certainly the Guthrie family, that they are taking these ransom demands very seriously. Now, we have not seen those notes, but we've learned pieces of information as this story has developed over the past week. According to the FBI, the notes had 2 deadlines. One was for Thursday last week. The second one is for about 24 hours from now, which would be Monday. I'll have more on when on Monday those notes may be demanding the ransom money. Now, the first of the alleged ransom notes that were sent out, there were notes that were sent out early last week to at least 2 television stations in Tucson and to TMZ. Then you had a second ransom note that was sent to 1 local television station in Tucson, and that went out on Friday of last week. But let's talk about the first ransom note that was sent to TMZ, because TMZ has been somewhat public with what the note entailed, even though they did say that the FBI has asked them not to share certain amounts of information. They say that the note demanded a large amount of money to be paid in Bitcoin sent to a Bitcoin wallet. TMZ says they were able to verify that the Bitcoin wallet is in fact real, but we don't know if these ransom notes are legit, if they have been sent by the person or people who kidnapped Nancy Guthrie. They also say that the note reportedly said that Nancy is safe, but she is scared and she recognizes the situation that she is in. Now, clearly with the Guthrie family posting a video saying they will pay, you can see that they're taking it seriously, as well as law enforcement. Then you have this second note that went out on Friday last week to 1 television station that we know of in Tucson, Arizona. And this was after the first deadline passed. The second note reportedly said that there would be no negotiating, and then demanded that amount of money in Bitcoin. It is unclear, and it's important to talk about this, that the video, frankly, videos that we have seen from the Guthrie family, where they have talked to someone who allegedly kidnapped their mom, and they have talked about the ransom demands, it's unclear if they are responding specifically to the ransom notes that the media outlets say that they have received. This case has been so public, as law enforcement have been investigating multiple locations in the Tucson area. And you have these media members, some from news organizations, some people who are bloggers.
Yeah, it's been so public. A public embarrassment, especially from that sheriff. God, I hate him. So, Leah, by the way, what was the address on that that power of attorney declaration?
Bloggers online who are in Tucson and who have been posting about every single move that law enforcement have made, like when they go into a home or where there's been activity in certain parts of the city. But when it comes to the Guthrie family specifically, the close circle, Savannah, her sister, her brother, the people who were with Nancy Guthrie just before she went missing, we have not heard a lot about what they know and who they have been talking to. That part of the story, that has been airtight. Now, TMZ said that the FBI, again, told them not to share certain pieces of information related to the alleged ransom notes, but...
Yeah, I think we should have a look at the ransom note from the John Benet Ramsey case, Kelly. That was priceless. That was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Overnight, a local television station in Tucson, which says it received a ransom note.
Okay, I said this last night, but I'll say it again. Take that watch off the old lady. Look at the bruising around her wrist. Even if it's not tight, you don't want anything on that area. Take the watch off and put an ice pack on it.
Note, drop some big news about what it entails. K-Gun TV says it received a note, one of the first notes sent out early last week, and they say in that alleged ransom note, the demand was for $6 million. And the deadline on Monday is 5 p.m. Now, there's a separate TV station in Tucson that says it received a second ransom note. It's unclear at this point if the Guthries are responding to these notes that we know about in the videos that they've posted on Instagram. Now, the Bitcoin part of this is very important, because we'll talk about in just a moment why the alleged kidnappers, whoever they may be, and if they actually have Nancy Guthrie, if they're the people responsible for this, why they could have a very difficult time moving a large amount of money put into a Bitcoin wallet. We will talk about that in just a moment, and why that could open the door to a new trail of evidence and clues in this case as the hunt will continue for the people responsible. Now, last night, as so many of us were reacting to what we saw in that video posted to Savannah Guthrie's Instagram, law enforcement showed up to Annie Guthrie's home. This is on Saturday night, Nancy's eldest daughter's house. That is where Nancy Guthrie was for dinner on the Saturday night where she went missing. She had Ubered to the house for dinner. They played games, family evening at that home. Then the sheriff says a family member drove her back to her place around 9:45, and the sheriff won't say which family member drove her home. But it now seems like there is more activity at Annie Guthrie's house, because last night it appeared that members of the Pima County Sheriff's Department showed up at Annie's home. They were there for roughly 3 hours. And you can see in this video some of that police activity per News Nation's Brian Enton. And there are reporters who were on scene who said they saw flashes of light inside the house from a camera. Now, the Sheriff's Department has not said why they went to Annie Guthrie's home for roughly 3 hours on Saturday night. The Pima County Sheriff has also said multiple times that they don't have a suspect in this case, and they also don't have a person of interest. Now, there is a lot of federal help in this case. The FBI is putting a lot of resources into this case. President Trump has been involved. He obviously knows Savannah Guthrie from her covering him from his time in politics. And President Trump over the weekend was asked on Air Force One about the case. And he said, quote, "I think we're doing very well on everything. You're probably surprised to hear that. We have some clues that are very strong, and I think we could have some answers coming up very soon." Trump made that statement before the Guthrie family posted that most recent video to Instagram saying they will pay. The Pima County Sheriff.
Well, yeah, do you think Trump is going to act like the sheriff and say, well, we're probably not going to have any leads for a while, so there'll be no need for a press conference? That's not Trump's style at all. Like, you know, I think he always says that he's doing very well, even if that's not true, right?
Of Sheriff Nanos, he's certainly been under a lot of pressure. He's been under the microscope as this case has played out in his jurisdiction, and he's been criticized plenty. But an interesting development that came in last night was he was spotted at a University of Arizona basketball game. This is according to Fox News. He was at that game around the same time that his deputies were at Annie Guthrie's house. Joining us now to talk more about where the case stands at this point is missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. What do you make when you watch this video? I mean, certainly a huge development, but this video with the Guthrie kids, you know, Savannah, her brother, her sister, saying that they are going to pay.
The Guthrie kids, the Guthrie bunch.
The way that they talked, what stood out to you?
It's a tough one to read. I'll be honest with you. I know everybody's saying that they feel that this.
Even in these videos here, right? There's this feeling of the two siblings being in the shadow, right? And okay, maybe there's nothing to this. Maybe that's just a normal thing, and it's got nothing to do with anything. That's a possibility. But I don't feel love between these people. They're having to... The whole thing feels like... You know what it's got the feel? I was saying this to someone today. It's got the feel of a publicity stunt. That kind of thing. Right? I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's the feeling. Why is that? Why is that?
What stood out to you?
It's a tough one to read. I'll be honest with you. I know everybody's saying that they feel that this made it feel as though she's no longer alive. I can kind of see an angle where it seems like they're speaking to a party of one. It seems like they are answering or responding to whatever was in that communication. And I have a feeling that may be a new communication, not necessarily the third one that we know about. There might be another one that they received directly. Because when she says, we've received your communication, or was, and we understand, I know a lot of people are inferring that they understand, okay, something may have happened to the mom. It could be they understand the demands and how to complete that. And it sounds like it could even be a situation where there's going to be some trust put in there where maybe she's returned and then a ransom is paid. And then with the threat of if it's not paid, then, people will, suffer great consequences. I mean, there's 100 different ways you could read that thing. I understand why a lot of people think that it means that something happened to Nancy, but I don't know. I don't know if I've lost full hope in that.
Yeah, and it seems like, and again, like body language is very difficult to read because it can, you can put it in whatever box you want and say, if anybody's been on social media for the last week, everybody's trying to read into every single word that they've said. And now there are certain words I've seen people say, where it's like, oh, did the FBI write this? And are there certain like little code words, messages? There's one part, like maybe even a movie reference in a previous video that might've been made. I do wonder.
Yeah, Fargo.
Because for as public as this case has been, where you have reporters on the street following every single move of law enforcement going to whether it's Annie Guthrie's house or Nancy Guthrie's house, as far as the inner circle of that family and the communication between the family and whether it's the FBI or the sheriff's office, that feels airtight. Like we have not heard a lot as far as, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they've been having communication with somebody just based off of, it just seems like the messages are different than what the local TV stations are saying, especially when Savannah Guthrie said like AI, and I don't know if it was saying like, if you send proof of life, like we can't tell, but like there has been, even in TMZ and as like kind of open they've been with what they can about the message, like we haven't heard of any images they received.
No.
So I just, that's like kind of where my mind goes is like, we have no idea what communication the Guthrie family has had with kidnappers, but also even their communication with law enforcement.
I listen, I think that there's been more communication, especially in the last 24 to 48 hours, than we're aware of. And I think I think that video that came out yesterday, the We Will Pay, was answering a communication that we don't know about. And whether that came through the TV station or where they're now, somehow they made direct contact through an Instagram burner because she's doing her outreach on Instagram. I don't know, but it seems that they're saying, okay, we don't need the proof of life anymore. We will pay. And we just want this to end. And like to your point where everybody is critiquing every piece of body language. Listen, Savannah is a little different situation. She's in front of the camera all the time and
professional,
and she's under so much pressure and she looks completely stressed out and has now imagine her brother and sister who are not in front of the camera ever, and they know if they're watching any social media that everybody is looking at every single body movement, every smirk, everything that they do, and then your body just starts doing those, like involuntarily. I think there's got to be a little grace in that with them to realize that one, it's a lot of pressure being on national, being under the microscope. Not national, the world is watching every one of those videos. It's got to be, and then your mom's gone, and so I don't think we can judge them by that. I don't think we can judge Savannah by that, and she's a professional in front of the camera.
Yeah, and to think like I can't imagine that they have had any sleep for the last week. I mean, for any reason. And so I think anybody trying to critique body language and what does that read one way or another, I think it's incredibly hard.
Hey, buddy, I know what people look like when they've had no sleep. I think they have had sleep, for one, and having no sleep doesn't create behavior like what we're seeing here. Having a 40-year history of jealousy, seething rage below the surface because your golden sister is getting all the attention. Where if you identify as, hello, I'm Annie, Savannah Guthrie's sister, you will always be Savannah Guthrie's sister. That's all you'll be, right? Until you can get your hands on that Tesla. And how do you do that? You kidnap your own mother.
You know, so from what we know from the FBI, the second deadline in this ransom note was Monday.
Yeah.
What do you make of the fact that this video saying that they're going to pay goes out on a Saturday? You know, and I don't know in these situations, like, do you bring it to the 11th hour where you're, you know, like it's got to be a Sunday night thing that you're going to say that you're going to pay? Or is it like, is there anything to read into the fact that?
That's funny. Ashes234, who says, Silence of the Lambs, another channel, played the clip from Silence of the Lambs, then played the statement from the Guthrie video, and there's a whole sentence that's exactly the same because, apparently. Well, there might be more coming. Because apparently, ... something.
It's worth it for us to pay $5 million to make sure things go safe, and then we will.
And that's ridiculous to me. I mean, people thought I was crazy for saying this yesterday, but at 84 years old, health issues, history of heart problems, you're going to pay $5 million, and she's probably not even going to last until Christmas? I mean, you could just have a really good funeral, and it wouldn't even cost you anywhere near that kind of money. You could build a statue for that kind of money. Right in Tucson. A really big one, like the Saddam statue in Baghdad that fell. Well, you know, that was pulled, but they call it falling. It fell. The same pose. Can we pull up a picture of the Saddam statue before it fell? Because it's huge, isn't it? Or it was. And to have the same pose in the middle of Tucson. Maybe if they've got a large roundabout in the center of town. I think that's it before it fell. Is that the same one? No, it's not the same one. But it's. I think there was loads of them. Right? So, yeah. I mean, just think what you could do with the money. $5 million to get back an 84-year-old lady with heart problems. It's ridiculous. Statue. That's what we should be thinking, with a nice water feature at the bottom. There you go. That's what you could have. You probably, and that wouldn't even cost $5 million. You probably do the whole thing with the plinth for $1 million, $1.2 million.
We'll work to get them captured and get that Bitcoin back. It's going to be incredibly hard for those people once they get the Bitcoin to move it on the blockchain. To convert it to cash is going to be that's a whole different show. But I mean, yeah. So they're probably making.
Oh, I'm sorry for the buffering, everybody. But it says 0 dropped frames, so that usually means that it's doing really well. Why is it buffering?
Making some sort of hedge bet that, listen, yeah, we have to put this money up front, but there's a good chance we will get it back. And the FBI has shown in cases like they've had the ability and the Justice Department to seize these wallets, and so that's a real possibility. And I think what they're saying is, okay, and not only that, but she needs her meds, she needs care, and it being.
Oh, so they've actually paid the $5 million? Is that right?
In the fragile state she's in, that waiting till Monday could.
Doesn't that kind of encourage people in the future to kidnap a celebrity's mother and hold her for ransom? It's like negotiations with terrorists. You can't do them, because if you did them, it would encourage others to do the same, right?
I think they just want, everybody wants it. Oh, you can listen, you can see it. It is taken. They're in fragile. They're in, poor health right now because of this. So I think it's just to end it. And, I guarantee the FBI is, advising them and the FBI is never going to take a stance of telling them to pay it or not pay it, but they will advise what your decision is, the best ways to go about that, and they're probably taking some of that advice. But I have a feeling too that Savannah's probably leaning a lot on some of her own friends and connections, because she's got people in positions like that, and her own security team, and consulting with her brother and her sister and seeing what they all think is the best way to do it. And that might not be the way the law enforcement is suggesting.
Yeah, and I think too, these emails that came in. So you have like the initial ones, I think, went to 2 TV stations in Tucson, then TMZ. And then the second one appeared to only, I think, go to one of the TV stations. But nonetheless, like, and I know that there's technology out there where like you could switch up IP addresses.
Even so, Celia, I mean, say if she lives for another 10 years, I mean, how many active days are we going to get with her? How many would we want? I mean, it gets to a point where it's like, all you're doing is repeating things that you just said, right?
And that, how hard is it though to trick the FBI? Like, how likely is it at this point the FBI, with all the resources going into this, has no idea where these emails were?
And it also lends to the idea that it's not a whack job who just said, hey, let's do this really high risk thing to try and get some money. Okay, who are we going to pick? An elderly woman in poor health. The value of that person goes down. If it were a child, it's like, okay, take. But the old lady, I'm not saying myself, but some people in the world would be looking at it and going, do we really want her back? I'm extending the point, but it's there. It's relevant. It would be a factor.
Percent.
I do think there's a chance. I think we're dealing with somebody. So I think this is a whole different day and age of crimes like this, right? And we never see this. So this is kind of like the first of this type. But I think people were saying it's very amateur the way it's being done, without opening. Having this open communication. I actually disagree. I think that the way they're doing it kind of makes sense, and I think the reason that it went out to those 3 organizations is because they're submitting it through a web form.
Well, she might have had a heart problem soon. I mean, Savannah Guthrie's father had 2 heart attacks. The final one killed him, and that was like 40 years ago or more. And while obviously the mother and father wouldn't share a genetic history, they would have eaten the same foods often, and a lot of butter, a lot of things deep fried, and not enough fiber or bran, and green leafy vegetables, fresh baby leaf spinach. It was never in the house. Lentils, nothing. Chickpeas, no. So we, that could show the potential for having a heart all glued up with sticky fats.
So they don't know, one, a lot of those places just have like interns monitoring those boxes, those tip boxes. So they don't know if it's going to be taken seriously. So they kind of put it out there to make sure that it's seen, right? And then once they know it is, now they have an open channel of communication if they need it through the TV station. But they were very clear in saying this will be our one and only communication. Now I know that there has been one since, so they kind of broke that. But that makes sense if you're saying, listen, I want money transfer, I want Bitcoin transfer to this Bitcoin wallet, and I'm not giving any more communication because I know that the next one, the FBI, they could have stingrays set up to intercept cell signals and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure they're like, we're keeping it this because we don't want to get caught. So either pay it, and then it's a mental game, right? It's like,
Yeah.
because then the family's like, should we just pay it and see what happens? Take this chance. And there's a certain percentage of people that have that.
Oh, I like this question, Kelly. Let's explore this. Okay. So Kelly says, why would you need to cause enough harm to an 84-year-old woman to produce blood? Why would her family do that? They could easily coax her out of the house. Who said anybody caused blood? There was blood on the floor. What if she was putting the kitchen knives away and was startled when someone came in her house, dropped the knife and cut her hand? That's not like, I'm not making an extreme alternate basis. There being blood doesn't indicate that it was the cause of someone intentionally harming her. She could have been startled in the bathroom and dropped a mirror. I cut myself the other day on a wine glass, and there was blood everywhere. It can happen that quick.
The assets available to them to do it, that will do it. And I think that's what the bet is. Like tech savvy person on the other end, and then that hired a brute force crew to go grab her.
A brute force crew? We're not kidnapping Mike Tyson. Look at that lady there on the screen. Yeah, we need a brute force crew. We need a crew from around the world. I want the biggest Russian you can find. I want the biggest Turk. I want an expert in Taekwondo, because we're gonna need a brute force crew to get this person out for the extraction.
Well, because that's the thing is, like, I think of like the FBI, and it's like they can figure out if there's like a hack of a government, facility, cyber attack, or, a company gets, they can trace it to North Korea. And then I'm sitting here and it's like, who ever took Nancy Guthrie? Like, do they have the ability to hide from the FBI where they have no idea where those ransom notes were sent from? Or is it a case where, and I'm speculating, is like you find out where it was sent from, and then that certainly raises the level of concern that it might not be like a young teenager who is in his mom's basement who's able to send these, alleged ransom notes.
Yeah, I think that they probably have got it narrowed down to like a region, even if they're using multiple VPNs and stripping IPs and stuff.
There it is, the cleanest roof in Arizona. Look at it. Amazing.
They probably know a region, and they probably now have got...
What's that little closed off yard on the left bottom corner? That's... Why would you go out and sit there? I don't know. You've got the big garden. Strange. Does anybody live in a bungalow? Brian, you're in New Mexico. Do you live in a bungalow, Brian? Yeah, what is the deal? What is the deal with desert architecture? Is it for dust storm reasons or something? I mean, why is everything on the ground level and that's it? There's like no two-story buildings in Arizona or New Mexico for houses. Why not?
Systems in place through those
ninjas. Yeah. Two people came in. I managed to rush the girl and I escaped, and then left Travis a message to say, we were thinking about going to see Othello and we would love for you to accompany us.
VPN that they went through where they're able to see maybe the incoming side of that traffic now. And that's why these people don't want to send further messages. I think.
Are we having technical difficulties? Did you hear my comment about the blood, Kelly? I don't know why the technical difficulties are happening. It has been really bad weather here, so maybe that's it. Sorry, I was just doing all I can. But thank you, Kelly, for the thoughtful update to the community. It's good. I
think another message or two, and the FBI probably will be able to find.
Mass, excuse the mass. Just as these mass, excuse the mass. Just as these horrible, old, enormous panties everywhere to entice her guest. Maybe she's like the Western version of a gourmet swinger.
If they're using multiple VPNs and stripping IPs and stuff, they probably know a region, and they probably now have got systems in place through those VPN.
Look, is that a name tag? But it looks like someone has crossed out his sheriff's badge. Strike! You're not a sheriff. Revoked. Cross it out. Yeah, strip those badges off that shirt and burn them. Worst sheriff ever.
That they went through where they're able to see maybe the incoming side of that traffic now. And that's why these people don't want to send further messages. I think another message or two, and the FBI probably will be able to find out, to narrow it down. And maybe even the last message, maybe they're getting closer. Maybe that's what Trump meant when he said, I think there's going to be news. But it's, I do think as of this.
Well, and if you have I know that one TV station which says it received a ransom note, I think the number was $6 million, and if someone gets $6 million like that, it's not like something that you can just put into a bank,
right.
And it's like, however, this would be, I have no idea.
It is if you're already rich, $6 million is pocket change to somebody who lives in Monaco. Could it be the Prince of Monaco? Albert II. It was him.
Idea how that, I'm not an accountant, so I have no idea how it works, but I know that type of money certainly raises red flags.
Well, it does, and the thing is that the thing with Bitcoin, it's anonymous who the wallet holder is, but the wallet itself is completely open. We can all look at that Bitcoin wallet address, and if $6 million hits it, we can see every transaction in that wallet. Mm-hmm. So they can't, and there are
is that right?
Systems out there where they jumble, they take a lot of Bitcoins from different addresses and they wash them. But listen, they've gotten very good at the Department of Justice, FBI, Treasury has gotten very good at tracking these things. And we've seen, some high profile cases in the last year involving Bitcoin that have been seized. And so they're going to have a huge problem converting that. You might have 6 million in Bitcoin, but I wouldn't be surprised if that gets back to, if it gets back to the family at some point in the future, because it's going to be incredibly hard to liquidate that.
Right. And I think too, with the FBI, they probably do not make deals with people. I know it's up to the family to decide whether or not you want to pay a ransom, but for the FBI, they're not going to stop looking for this person, even if we get a
Samantha's frugal. I just did a Pima County criminal search on Annie and her husband. I refuse to use the word hubby, I'm sorry. They don't even have a traffic ticket. Well, why would they? One call from Savannah Guthrie, and that's squashed. Yeah, they're jealous, but they reap the benefits. The waters part for them wherever they go.
Happy ending of Nancy.
And yeah, okay, so what? You're saying that they don't have a history of kidnapping? Yeah, well, we see that before. We've seen that before. We've seen people do murders. Chandler Alderson, no record. Koberger. Did he have a record? Well, let's pretend he didn't. I don't know. I didn't really look into the case. It doesn't really interest me. Sick shit. I much prefer stuff that you can imagine happening in your own life.
Nancy Guthrie being able to get back to her family as a result of that being paid. You know, there's that part of it playing out and trying to figure out with the ransom note, and then now with the videos that have been put out on Savannah's Instagram, you know, and that part of the investigation. But then you know, it's an odd situation to see. You know, and I'm all for media access, don't get me wrong, but it's like every single moment a deputy or agent shows up to Nancy Guthrie's house or Annie Guthrie's house or a circle.
He's good, isn't he? Look at him. Acapella. They stapled the Bitcoin. Just sometimes, man, I just wish I could take a long walk around your mind. That's fantastic.
Gas station somewhere, like we know about it because there's so many people on the ground in Tucson giving the play-by-play. And last night we see deputies, it appears, show up to Annie Guthrie's house. They're there for a couple of hours, and we see light flashes. This is right after the video was posted of the Guthrie children saying that they're going to pay. What do you? It's hard to say. Like, what do you make of that? Because it's like we have no idea. It could be nothing, could be something. But like typically, what's playing out when you see that going on inside of a home?
Well, a couple of things on that. We've seen there's been, I think, a little friction between the Sheriff's Department and FBI and also just the public because of the way this crime scene was turned over the first time. But then I have to say, I know the Sheriff's taken a ton of heat on this, but, you know, those other times it was turned over or turned back. It was turned back by...
I missed this one from earlier. Bungalow Bill lives in one, I guess. Fantastic. I didn't make that connection myself. That's why Acapella's here. He's like, he's just really good at picking up stuff that I might have said, but totally missed the opportunity to do so for several minutes.
The FBI went in and processed it, and then they're the ones who released it again and then went back. So, but last night was really interesting because the FBI was not there. Those were all, I was watching it live, just like we can do now, right? And those were all sheriff's deputies or techs from the Sheriff's Department. They all had Pima County uniforms on. And there wasn't any FBI there. So if this was I know there's a lot of talk about luminol testing going on, which is for testing for cleaned up blood evidence and whatnot. But if that was the case, there's no doubt in my mind the FBI crime scene techs would have been the ones processing any bio evidence like that. And also they were not in there when they came out. You could see them, they had blue gloves on, but they would have had Tyvek suits. They would have had respirators to make sure you don't cross-contaminate if they're really testing for bio or blood evidence. And they also just didn't have the crime scene truck there, which has all the...
That's not true. You don't have to put on a biohazard suit to test for luminol. Do a luminol test for blood. Oh, they would have had bio suits. What? We see that all the time. There's no bio suit.
The equipment in it, and luminol's not like you just go in and spray it and then start taking pictures. They also you light it a certain way because to take those pictures in the dark, and they were taking flash photos, so I think it was something else that wasn't of major significance because the FBI didn't see a reason to be there. And at this point, if there's any
flash photos would be the initial method of capturing something. If you want to do a better photo later with lighting it in a certain way, as he says, you come back later. It doesn't prevent you from taking a photo of it now, even without a flash.
Search warrants that are being granted, you guarantee the FBI is fully aware of those, because they typically are the processing arm of an investigation. Even if they're not the lead agency, they're usually, it's their crime techs that'll process everything.
And then going.
Okay, I didn't get an egg, but I need something. All I've got here is this South Carolina Carolina Reaper hot sauce with 5 chilies and a hotter than hot warning. So maybe if I just have a cap full of that. I'm always disappointed with this shit. It's like, fuck you. There you go. It's a whole cap. It's basic. It's quite nice. It's got a heat that happens over time. Okay. I might get hiccups though. I gotta drink some water upside down. God, it's more tomato than chili, but as you can see, how pathetic is that? That if that was real, that should have me running down the street towards the fire station, so that they can put that big hose in my mouth. Okay, I do have hiccups though. Might have another one.
Back to the ransom, like when a family decides to pay a ransom, and in this case, it's through allegedly like a Bitcoin link that, to put money in. I mean, how does that work? Does the FBI take that money and then pay it through? Or is it like you're shopping online and it's like you throw down, not that it would be a credit card transaction, but it's something like, does the family, and I know it's the family's decision, but it's like, who's the one who like, okay, we're going to pay, what happens next?
So, the FBI has long taken a stance of...
Yeah, I know the Frank's brand hot sauce. I was very excited to see an American supermarket with how many fucking varieties of Frank's could you bet? I think there's a picture of me standing in front of it. Do Papa John's still have that as their preferred giveaway? A little plastic tub of Frank's.
In ransom situations, we play an advisory role. They can't legally, they say that they absolutely have a policy of not paying any ransom, period. But they don't tell families, they tell families it's ultimately their decision. It's not illegal to pay a ransom. It is illegal to receive ransom dollars and in any form. So, but they will advise them through it. If you decide to pay, they will help them, kind of maybe best practices, if you want to call it that. But the FBI or the Treasury or anybody is not the one advancing that money. What would happen is the family or whoever for the family, however they do it, would actually have to.
I know, Acapella. So the drinking water upside down thing, there was a moment in time where I realized that I didn't have to kind of put my head literally upside down and then awkwardly hold a glass of water at a strange angle and drink it. Usually you would put the bottom of your mouth on the outside of the cup, right? But to put it upside down while you're hanging upside down. Anyway, I finally understood that I could just put some water in my mouth normally and before swallowing it, then go upside down and swallow it like that. And I was like, wow, I've been wasting so much effort trying to do it, literally, But I could have cheated. But it does work. It does.
Go open a account on one of the large crypto exchanges, and they would have to, wire in. I hadn't heard the $6 million figure, but let's say I hadn't heard any figure, but so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But say $6 million, and they would have to wire in $6 million, and that would immediately be converted to Bitcoin. So I suppose it's at the time you pay it, whatever the value is, and then it's immediately, then they just do it online. You just do it on a laptop. You put in that Bitcoin address. Do you want to really send this? Yes. Are you sure you want to send this? Yes. And then boom, it's gone. But it's on the blockchain. Then it's a public ledger. Everybody in the world that can see it. So that and that they can't just take that and be like, here, cash it out and send it to this, wire it to here. It's very, very difficult for them to.
Should we chip in for the ransom? If you want to chip in to get Nancy Guthrie's body back, and you want to be part of the movement, go to buymeacoffee.com/True Crime Metrix and PayPal to build up the ransom.
To scrub that. Because the whole world, not just FBI or Treasury Department, every internet sleuth in the world is going to be watching that Bitcoin wallet for eternity.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I'm not a...
For eternity. That'll be funny. Hey, I don't think it's difficult to do. If you've got 6 million, you've got enough money. You've got enough to be able to make it disappear, even with all the FBI and shit.
Bitcoin savant by any means, but it's like when you hear that they want it in Bitcoin, you think like, oh, maybe that's not traceable, but it seems like it's very much traceable.
Yes.
So we'll see how
it's not really traceable. It's not you're not identified as the wallet holder. But when you cash out, you have to send it to, if you're converting it to any form of currency, it's got to eventually go to a bank account then.
Interesting.
You don't have to convert it to a form of currency. You can spend Bitcoin and receive goods and services. It's not that difficult to make money disappear.
You have to set up. So it becomes very difficult. And if you want to go buy a Lamborghini or something, well, they're going to be there saying...
Or a Hummer. If you want to go and get a big yellow Hummer with low-profile, huge wheels and flames down the side, a paint job. Yeah. If you want to... Why not just purchase a big neon sign that you could wear on your back so that it would always be above your head saying, "It was me. I got Guthrie. I got Guthrie."
Who registered this? Where did the Lamborghini go? They're going to try any asset you buy with it. They're going to follow that to see who ends up with that asset. Because if it's got a VIN number, if it's got a title, if it's got a serial number, whatever it may be,
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that part plays out. I mean, it's just, it seems like, these videos from the Guthrie family, you feel for them, it's hard to put into words about that, but then it just brings to, a whole new level of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And we'll see now if they do pay, what is the next step?
And there's the one other twist in this could be, what if the FBI has an idea of who's done this? And it's not these people making the ransom demand, but let's say it's somebody close to the family. And I'm not talking about a family member, to be clear. I'm talking about, let's say they know somebody, an ex-employee, somebody in the orbit that knows, the ins and outs. But the FBI can't tell the family they know that yet because they don't know the relationship between this person and the family. What if the FBI knows what's going on, but they're also saying they're going to pay this $6 million to somebody that has no involvement in this, and when we know it, so they could, it gets to be a really tricky situation because if they tell them, listen, don't pay it, we know what's going on, then they got to kind of show their hand there. And, so it could really accelerate by Monday.
Without a doubt. I mean, we're recording this on Sunday, and we'll see, over the next.
What does that mean? Because it's Monday today. He just said that if the family are about to pay $6 million, but the FBI know that it's to someone who has nothing to do with this.
Every internet sleuth in the world is going to be watching that Bitcoin wallet for eternity.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I'm not a Bitcoin savant by any means, but it's like when you hear that they want it in Bitcoin, you think like, oh, maybe that's not traceable, but it seems like it's very much traceable.
Yes.
So we'll see how
it's not really traceable. It's not you're not identified as the wallet holder. But when you cash out, you have to send it to, if you're converting it to any form of currency, it's got to eventually go to a bank account then. That you have to set up. So it becomes very difficult. And if you want to go buy a Lamborghini or something, well, they're going to be there saying who registered this, where did the Lamborghini go? They're going to track any asset you buy with it. They're going to follow that to see who ends up with that asset. Because if it's got a VIN number, if it's got a title, if it's got a serial number, whatever it may be,
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that part plays out. I mean, it's just, it seems like, these videos from the Guthrie family, you feel for them, it's hard to put into words about that, but then it just brings to, a whole new level of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And we'll see now if they do pay, what is the next step?
And there's the one other twist in this could be, what if the FBI has an idea of who's done this? And it's not these people making the ransom demand, but let's say it's somebody close to the family. And I'm not talking about a family member, to be clear. I'm talking about, let's say they know somebody an ex-employee, somebody in the orbit that knows, the ins and outs. But the FBI can't tell the family they know that yet because they don't know the relationship between this person and the family. What if the FBI knows what's going on, but they're also saying they're going to pay the $6 million to somebody that has no involvement in this, and when we know it, so they could, it gets to be a really tricky situation because if they tell them, listen, don't pay it, we know what's going on, then they got to kind of show their hand there. And, it could really accelerate.
Then it just brings to, a whole new level of trying to figure out
who ends up with that asset. Because if it's got a VIN number, if it's got a title, if it's got a serial number, whatever it may be,
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that part plays out. I mean, it's just, it seems like, these videos from the Guthrie family, you feel for them, it's hard to put into words about that, but then it just brings to, a whole new level of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And we'll see.
Whoa. Is she smirking? I got to screenshot that. There's the money shot. Look at that. Guilt. Shame. Panic. It all went wrong. I can't believe she wasn't supposed to die. She didn't last 2 minutes after she cut herself dropping that wine glass when we were tying her up. She just bled to death. We didn't know what to do. Maybe we'll still be able to get the ransom if we use a Bitcoin. Yeah. And Savannah probably knows, right, on some level. I think it takes a bit. Because even in Chandler Halderson, right? Mitch came round and he's straight away, he's like, what do you mean Mom and Dad went to the cabin with a mystery couple? What do you mean that they packed the car with booze and gold? But there's this prevention that people, they don't go, oh, well, obviously my brother killed my parents. No, he says, well, okay, you got a spare key for the cabin? I'm going to take a drive up to the cabin and check it out. Something's not right here. Even though his instinct is screaming at him. His subconscious is screaming at him. It was Chandler. He's been planning this for years. He's not the person you think you know. Same thing could be happening here, right? Savannah's like, oh, we need to do an appeal. We need to do an appeal to the kidnappers and tell them that we promised to pay. We need to present a family. So, brother, sister, sit with me, behind my golden light. Okay? Sit behind my golden light and let me shine.
See now if they do pay, you know, what
Title, if it's got a serial number, whatever it may be, you know.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that part plays out. I mean, it's just,
here.
you know,
This is the bit where the guy's going to end up saying, why would the FBI want to show their hand to the family and tell them not to pay $6 million to a fake account? I mean, you'd think that that would be a priority for them to let them know, hey, don't pay the $6 million to a hoax.
it seems like, you know, these videos from the Guthrie family, you feel for them, you know, it's hard to put into words about that, but then it just brings to, you know, a whole new level of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And we'll see now if they do pay, you know, what is the next step?
And there's the one other twist in this could be, what if the FBI has an idea of who's done this, and it's not these people making the ransom demand, but
right.
Let's say it's somebody close to the family, and I'm not talking about a family member, to be clear. I'm talking about, let's say they know somebody an ex-employee, somebody in the orbit that knows, you know, the ins and outs. But the FBI can't tell the family they know that yet because they don't know the relationship between this person and the family.
Oh my God, there's something about this sentence that just makes me not take it in. It's the 4th time I'm watching it. Sorry, but I really need to know.
And it just brings to, you know, a whole new level of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And we'll see now if they do pay, you know, what is the next step?
And there's the one other twist in this could be, what if the FBI has an idea of who's done this, and it's not these.
Okay, so what if the FBI has an idea of who's done this, and it's not these
people making the ransom demand, but
right.
Let's say it's somebody close to the family, and I'm not talking about a family member, to be clear. I'm talking about, let's say.
Oh, right. Okay, I get it. So, if the FBI knew it was the sister, or had a good lead that it was, and he says he's not talking about the family, but I think he is. Doesn't really make sense otherwise. The immediate family are the ones paying the ransom. So if one of them is under suspicion, the FBI couldn't say, hey, don't pay that $1 million because we know that's a fake account, because we know it was Annie. They can't say that because they're not complete with their investigation. That's what it is. And it would tip them off that they're under suspicion. And they'd lawyer up.
They know somebody an ex-employee, somebody in the orbit that knows, you know, the ins and outs. But the FBI can't tell the family they know that yet because they don't know the relationship between this person and the family. What if the FBI...
He made a special point of saying, I'm not talking about the family. But if someone like the gardener was working for the family, he thinks it was the family. And so do I. So do I, really. It is speculative. And maybe I'm wrong. When was the last time that happened? I'm thinking.
FBI knows what's going on, but they're also saying they're going to pay the $6 million to somebody that has no involvement in this, and when we know it, you know, so they could. It gets to be a really tricky situation because if they tell them, listen, don't pay it, we know what's going on, then they got to kind of show their hand there, and you know, so it could really accelerate by Monday.
Without a doubt. I mean, you know, we're recording this on Sunday, and we'll see, you know, over the next several hours, you know, as the sun comes up there in the west, what happens. Yeah. Missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
If you have any information on where Nancy Guthrie is, you can contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department or the FBI. For Pima County, 520-351-4900 is the number to call. And if you want to contact the FBI, you call 1-800-CALL-FBI, or you can go to tips.fbi.gov. That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and now you can find episodes of On the Case on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.
Well, thanks, Chris. That was pretty good. I'm glad we watched that. What's that one in the middle there? Is that good? Less than 24 hours until alleged Guthrie's ransom deadline.
Joining us now is former NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor Paul Morrow. Paul, we're honored to have...
It was funny when the sheriff was having a press conference and I think the FBI agent said the deadline was for 5 o'clock on Monday. And the next question was, and was that Eastern Standard Time? Or it was like, why would it be Eastern Standard Time? It's going to be Mountain Time, obviously, right? And it's Greenwich Mean Time. Yeah, they said 5 o'clock in Beijing.
have you back. So, assuming the Guthrie family does pay this $6 million Bitcoin ransom, as they said last night in the video, we will pay. We don't know what that means and when. But what happens next in that scenario?
Well, obviously the hope is that they will then...
Quick breeze, maybe start a new show. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Why not?
Their mother someplace that they can get to relatively quickly. My assessment is that it's not going to be Mexico. We've talked about this just because the added difficulty to get over the border. Either way, why take that risk if you're sitting where the kidnappers are? Unless they had something really scoped out, something that was very, very sure, that's a risk you don't want to take. So you'd have to assume it's someplace in the continental United States. And the question is going to be this. Okay, they drop her off. How fast can you trace the transaction? Because once the money hits the Bitcoin wallet, it can be seen. You don't know, however, from where it's going to be extracted. Now, if the mother is, that is Nancy, is dropped off in the United States, you're going to have a race against the clock when you see it extracted to try to get to that area to see if you can pick up who the perps were. And that's the difficulty, let's say, in like ransomware, because the money gets extracted in Russia someplace, in Vladivostok, you're never going to get to it. But if it happens here, then ostensibly, you'd be able to notify the locals, FBI local office.
Did he just give the kidnappers the idea of a lifetime? So all we need to do is put the transfer into cash in Russia. Listen, yeah, good idea. Thank you. Thank you, Fox.
Now, if the mother is, that is Nancy, is dropped off in the United States, you're going to have a race against the clock when you see it extracted to try to get to that area to see if you can pick up who the perps were. And that's the difficulty, let's say, in like ransomware, because the money gets extracted in Russia someplace, in Vladivostok, you're never going to get to it. But if it happens here...
Vladivostok, is that a real place, or is he just making up a kind of Russian-sounding name? Can we look that up? You know, Vladivostok. Because it's a little racist if that's what he's doing, isn't it? You know, he's like, what are they called in Russia? Vladimir. Okay, Vladivostok. It's like saying diarrhea Stan. Right? Oh, I picked up something in diarrhea Stan. How did you spell it? Vladstock. I don't think it's a real place. Oh no. Vladivostok. What is that? Vladivostok. Is that what he said?
In the United States,
better be what he said.
You're going to have a race against the clock when you see it extracted to try to get to that area to see if you can pick up who the perps were. And that's the difficulty, let's say, in like ransomware, because the money gets extracted in Russia someplace, in Vladivostok, you're never going to get to it. But if it happens here...
Okay, we'll give him that. So where is Vladivostok? Oh, wow. So it's practically Japan. I never even thought about that part of Russia. It's the furthest one away. Vladivostok. There you go. I hear it's beautiful this time of year. The swallows are returning.
Then ostensibly, you'd be able to notify the locals, FBI local office, whatever local police, and they try to get to whatever mechanism they used to extract. See, that's the problem with Bitcoin. It moves quickly, you can see it, but the vulnerability is when you take it out of the crypto environment.
Paul, thanks for bringing that expertise. I know there's a lot we can go down when it comes to that. Let's put ourselves in the position of the police officers right now. I want to remind people at home this. They're operating right now kind of irrespective to the ransom, correct? They're not necessarily operating saying, well, we can't find them, but if we pay this ransom, maybe they'll bring her to us. They're really operating kind of trying to find her and these perps without the ransom. In other words, they're not relying on her being turned over just because a ransom is paid.
No, they're certainly not. You know, look, they're going on the assumption that she is alive and that she will be returned. But right now, it's a manhunt like any other, and they're doing everything they can to try to get something that looks like a solid lead. Now, I know from outside of it, it can look like, oh, they're making absolutely no progress. You know, look, I've been in the middle of these things, and even very large task forces where you got 50, 100 people working around the clock on a very complicated thing. I can just tell you, there is a tremendous gulf between what the public knows and what's going on inside that building. So you'd have to assume right now that anything they do have, we probably wouldn't know about. Added to that is the fact that I do think this is, at this point, since we didn't get a local who breaks or somebody who comes forward, by now you'd start to think that would be the case. This is going to be the Bureau that develops this. It's going to be the FBI through some technical means.
Nancy Guthrie's home on the roof. They towed her Subaru. Today we saw them digging around what we understand could be a septic tank. If there's any evidence that's...
Digging around a septic tank? Why? What? We could check out the pool as well and the clean roof. Look at that roof. You know, the contractor who did that job really should be having his name in the bottom corner or something, right? What a great job. What a showcase. He's probably sat at home saying, see how good I am at what I do? I did that. Telling all his friends and family. What do you think of my work? Pretty good, huh? But he's missing out on a huge... I mean, this would set that guy up, right? Everybody would want a piece of his shit. It's life-changing, what do you call it? Publicity. And what a great... It's just a showcase, really, isn't it? It's like, look at this is my portfolio.
But if it happens here, then ostensibly, you'd be able to notify the locals, FBI.
Here's some strangers. The guy who did the roof. Here's some strangers that are in front of him in the line in the supermarket, and they're talking about the case and saying, "Oh, yeah, terrible, isn't it? What do you think? Do you think she's in our mine shaft? Do you think she's still alive?" And then he interrupts them and says, "Hey, did you see the roof? Do you thinking about having yours done? Because if you like what you saw there, I'd be happy to give you a rate."
Local office, whatever local police, and they try to get to whatever mechanism they used to extract. See, that's the problem with Bitcoin. It moves quickly, you can see it, but the vulnerability is when you take it out of the crypto environment.
Paul, thanks for bringing that expertise. I know there's a lot we can go down when it comes to that. Let's put ourselves in the position of the police officers right now. I want to remind people at home this. They're
So what's this about the septic tank? That's what I want to know.
operating right now kind of irrespective to the ransom, correct? They're not necessarily operating saying, well, we can't find them, but if we pay this ransom, maybe they'll bring her to us. They're really operating kind of trying to find her and these perps without the ransom. In other words, they're not relying on her being turned over just because a ransom is paid.
No, they're certainly not. You know, look, they're going on the assumption that she is alive and that she will be returned. But right now, it's a manhunt like any other, and they're doing everything they can to try to get something that looks like a solid lead. Now, I know from outside of it, it can look like, oh, they're making absolutely no progress. You know, look, I've been in the middle of these things, and even very large task forces where you got 50, 100 people working around the clock on a very complicated thing. I can just tell you, there is a tremendous gulf between what the public knows and what's going on inside that building. So you'd have to assume right now that anything they do have, we probably wouldn't know about. Added to that is the fact that I do think this is, at this point, since we didn't get a local who breaks or somebody who comes forward, by now you'd start to think that would be the case. This is going to be the Bureau that develops this. It's going to be the FBI through some technical means that develops the lane that we go down if it ends up being fruitful. That argues likely something digital, something with expertise of that sort. They are spread out all over the place. They have units all the way back in D.C., expertise spread around the country and the world. And my point is, it may not get down to everybody right away. The cops who are out there poking around at the scene, taking photographs in the middle of the night, they don't necessarily know everything that's going on. And there could be a cluster of people in the Bureau, the FBI that is, who are making very good progress, and it only goes up. It's not going down and disseminated yet until you have to do that, until it's important, until you know it's solid. Otherwise, you got a situation where everybody's running around bumping into each other. So right now, there could be 3 or 4 people who know a lot more than even the rest of the task force, and that would be a good sign.
Paul, I'm glad you mentioned, the ongoing effort to develop those other leads, because I wanted to ask you about some of what appeared to be the investigative work that is ongoing on the ground there. Yesterday we observed investigators removing what we believe to be a camera from Nancy Guthrie's home on the roof. They towed her Subaru. Today we saw them digging around what we understand could be a septic tank. If there's any evidence that's removed from any of these things, how long does it take to process that? Just take the Subaru, for example.
Why are they digging around the septic tank? The toilet was blocked. Is that a clue? They're not going to leave any stone unturned here, okay? There was a blocked toilet. Maybe it was the sheriff. Maybe they're just fixing what the sheriff did.
Towing that out of the house, how long does it take investigators to process that and decide, is there a lead here worth pursuing or not?
So you remove it so that you can do it in a very controlled environment. So what's more controlled than, let's say, the garage that it was sitting in? Well, you want to be able to take it where you have machinery, you have various types of computer software that you can plug into the computer that's in the car. Cars these days, remember, are like rolling computers, and they grab all kinds of data from all over the place. So you're going to want to go someplace where you can do that extraction. You also want someplace where you have very good lighting, because you're going to be doing all kinds of really, really dense and difficult forensic work. And it may come down to something like a hair that shouldn't be there after it's tested. Think about how long that kind of thing would take. That's why I always say, just because we didn't solve it, these TV shows, the first 48 and all that kind of stuff, there was a point where that was relatively valid, because you would solve things like this by talking to people in the neighborhood, talking to informants. That happens relatively quickly, as I was saying earlier. These days, however, when the thing goes into data land, that means you're getting a ton of details, some of it just looks like numbers on a page that have to be crunched. That's the kind of thing that takes time, even with AI, which is still very nascent, very much in its early stages. So the car, they're probably going over it like crazy, looking for, as I said, a hair or anything like that. Prints, the computer, They're probably going to put luminol on the car as well to see if there's any blood on the car that hadn't been picked up. Things like that in a controlled environment. And that's why they're taking it out of there so they can do it in a place that's more comfortable to them. As far as the septic tank, anybody's guess. I don't really know what they're looking for there. I will say this.
Sheriff.
There have been cases, I was on the edge of one. This one I wasn't in the room, but I know the people that did it. They pulled the drain.
I know the people. I know the people that did it. It was the sheriff, I know it.
Out of the bathtub. And the bathtub drain still had enough trace amounts of blood that the perp was trying to wash off, that it led to heavy evidence against him. So think in terms of that kind of a thing. That stuff can be DNA'd as well. And of course, there's a more prosaic idea that maybe somebody fleeing the scene threw a knife or something down there, or a tool, because we know that that front Nest camera was removed. There may be tool marks, and they may be looking for a screwdriver.
You're welcome, Vanessa. Vanessa's loving the coverage and agrees that they botched this investigation from day one, and the correct word for that would be clogged. And this is them now unclogging what the sheriff did. I love that. Or maybe Vanessa is behind us in time. Perhaps that's true.
Or something like that.
Paul, two questions here. Number one, yesterday on the show, we were really interpreting line by line the statement, that video from the Guthrie family. Since then, we're sort of interpreting the silence. And you kind of alluded to this, but you've been inside these rooms. You have a lot of investigative background. Should we look at this as maybe a hopeful sign that authorities are so tight-lipped because they're getting closer? Or is there truly nothing to update us on because they don't have anything? And then potentially relatedly, what do you make of that search of the other daughter's home, Annie, and those photographs that we saw happening last night?
So let's go to the first piece. There's no way to know, as I was saying earlier, because as I said, there's such a gulf between these things. And if they do have something, it depends on what that something is. As I said, it could be limited to a few people who are running it down. They're not sure if it's something yet or if it's nothing. Maybe all of a sudden they get back some data and they say, wow, this checks out. Here's where we're going to go. Now let's alert everybody. There's a lot of little pockets going on in it. The key in any investigation that's large, the key is that you disseminate everything to everybody when it's time to. You don't want too much white noise. Usually what you do is at the beginning of the shift and at the end of the shift, you do a hot wash, as they call. You go around the room, you talk to all the unit heads, and they all say what they got. And then at the end of the shift, you do the same thing. And if it's important, you really hit it hard. So
I could drink that whole bottle of hot sauce without any issues. Maybe I should. Why does it have a warning? I bought it because of the warning. Maybe, do you have the brand Encona in the US? I think the main one they do is a Jamaican hot sauce. But this one is from South Carolina. And you'd think that they would know what the fuck they were doing. It's like salsa. That's what it's like.
So that's the kind of thing that they're doing right now, almost certainly. But remember, if it is worth pursuing, it may still be something they don't want the public to know. And the sheriff may be reticent to come out and give a press conference. Regarding the flashes, I think you guys have talked about it. The flashes in the house last night.
West
Look,
Indian.
there may be...
That's what it's called. West London. Oh, no, is she? She's West as well. West Indian. That's what reminded me. It's not Jamaican. It's West Indian hot pepper sauce. Original hot pepper sauce. Well, that's pretty good. I think that's hotter than this. God damn.
Be some theory here that they're trying to look to see if for some reason after the blood that we saw that has been confirmed to be Nancy's at her house, that for some reason or other she ended back up at Annie's.
All roads lead to Hillary, Who's Hillary?
House.
Valjean.
So if they're working with some kind of timeline that's what happened, they may be looking at luminol because luminol does work better at night, and that's why you would be in the house taking photos with the lights off. That's why the only reason you'd be doing that, and maybe that's some theory, or they could be doing something else relative to corroborating the story they're getting from the people that live in that house. That piece, I have to say, smacks a little bit of really reaching a bit, because it's happening, what are we, eight days now out. They've already done search warrants there, but unless they got something new, that feels like they're tightening up some loose ends.
Paul Mora, always the best. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will.
Hindsight is 20/20, but does it really require hindsight to know a crime scene must be processed correctly as soon as possible? Does it really require hindsight?
What is going on with this guy? He looks like a Q-tip in a suit. Or a cotton bud. What the hell? They let him go on TV like that? Is this guy known? Trey Gowdy. You'd have to see it to believe it. If you described him to me and said he's on the news, I'd say, no, shut up.
It is 20/20, but does it really require hindsight to know a crime scene must be processed correctly as soon as possible? Does it really require hindsight to know time is of the essence in a kidnapping case? The sheriff of Pima County, Sheriff Nanos, acknowledged his department released Guthrie's home as a crime scene too soon, only to have to return days later. And by the way, the FBI does not only work high-profile cases, they will actually provide assistance in any case, but you have to ask. Joining us, retired FBI Special Agent Maureen O'Connell. Welcome, Special Agent. I like cops. They have really hard jobs, but you only get one chance to do something for the first time, like search a...
Yeah, she's strange looking as well. Look at that hair. What's happening with that hair? Why is it so big? I mean, that doesn't look good.
Maureen O'Connell, welcome, Special Agent. I like cops. They have really hard jobs, but you only get one chance to do something for the first time, like search a home right after a crime. I mean, you can go back, but it's never the same as immediately after the crime.
And we like prosecutors too, by the way. But you're correct in your assessment of the situation. I think the problem was initially that it was a missing persons case, and that was the type of case that they work probably more than any other case that they work. However, once that sheriff's deputy saw that blood, it should have been.
Are they AI? They might be. Like a cone head without the cone. Oh, yeah.
And we're shutting it down, everybody out, don't touch anything, etc. Some law enforcement agencies have a different set of protocols than the FBI does, but in California, almost...
Some agencies have a different set of protocols than the FBI does. You see, it's amazing what passes for expert information, isn't it? Do people need to be told that? The FBI have their own procedures. Okay, well, I'm glad I tuned in. You've blown me away. I thought they just used the same ones as the post office.
All the police departments, we all work together. You know, we have a beautiful relationship with all these different entities, and it's really a wonderful thing to see. But when we come in, we have, as I said, very strict protocols that we do not deviate from at all. And, you know, you saw that when the cavalry rolled in to Nancy's house that day. And people have been asking me ever since, why did they take the car then, you know, the other night? And I said, well, because when the FBI comes on, we want to look at the warrant. What's in the warrant? The warrant probably said, yes, search the entire residence, the curtilage, any outbuildings, any vehicles, and you know the drill. You've helped with those many times yourself. And then when they said, did you guys already process this car? How did it get back here? And they said, no, well, we didn't think it was part of it. That's probably why. That was the impetus behind that car being processed.
All right, Special Agent.
For the most part. But I work narcotics and gangs for the most part. But I worked narcotics and gangs in Los Angeles for 19 years. So I saw some of those kidnappings that you would.
Oh, that was fun. I worked narcotics in gangland Los Angeles for 19 years. Yeah. Then I thought I'll move to Arizona, where it's quieter. Oh, that's probably what happened to her hair.
Traditionally see more of in South America. Like it's very common if I have 2 kilos of cocaine and it either gets ripped off or the police sees it, I'm still on the hook to pay that dealer back for that money, and I've got to come up with it really quickly. So that was one of the type of kidnappings we happened to.
Yeah. I think that's why they call it high risk. Can you imagine going to some cartel boss and saying, "Okay, I want you to front me 2 keys," and they say, "Okay, but if you get busted, you still owe us the money." And you say, "Sure. I'm not going to get busted. I've got a system." But then you get caught, and then what would you do? I mean, I guess you're in pretty big trouble. Prison would probably be your best bet. But they've got people in there too, haven't they? Oh.
See, but it's interesting, Trey, because all the really seasoned homicide detectives and the people you really respect at work that you know do a fantastic job, one thing all of them said in all these kidnapping cases that we worked was they would ask the question, does this offender have a predisposition or proclivity toward violence? And in this case with Nancy, the answer is a resounding yes. And they say that if that's how this case starts.
Yeah, she's the thug. She's the Tucson thug of town. And what? I don't know what she just said, but it sounded like she said, does this person have a tendency or a proclivity towards violence? And the result was a resounding yes.
Kidnappings that you would traditionally see more of in South America. Like it's very common if I have 2 kilos of cocaine and it either gets ripped off or the police sees it, I'm still on the hook to pay that dealer back for that money, and I've got to come up with it really quickly. So that was one of the type of kidnappings we happened to see. But it's interesting, Trey, because all the really seasoned homicide detectives and the people you really respect at work that you know do a fantastic job, one thing all of them said in all these kidnapping cases that we worked was they would ask the question, does this offender have a predisposition or proclivity toward violence? And in this case with Nancy, the answer is a resounding yes. And they say that if that's how this case starts, we're in a world of hurt.
Let me ask you about that. Let me stay with the psychology of it. Profilers, behavioral scientists, they can be incredibly helpful.
We're in a world of hurt? What a strange thing to say. Why don't you just say it's serious, or we're in trouble, or we're in a world of hurt?
I use them, but I typically use them when I had run out of leads or did not have a prime suspect in mind. Could they can they still be helpful here in this case under these facts?
Absolutely, 100%. And one of the best profilers, or two of the best, are two of my dearest friends, and I co-host a podcast with one of them who I was just on the phone with, because one of these letters, this last one, is addressed Dear Samantha, not to anybody else. And we know Samantha's got the money, but I thought that was strange, so I...
It's not Samantha. God, the inadequacy of everybody involved in this. It's Savannah. Can't believe that. Hear it again.
The best profilers, or two of the best, are two of my dearest friends, and I co-host a podcast with one of them who I was just on the phone with, because one of these letters, this last one, is addressed Dear Samantha, not to anybody else. And we know Samantha's got the money, but I thought that was strange, so I called him, and he...
It's all right, Samantha's got the money. We're just going to find someone called Samantha with money.
Thought it was very telling that it's Dear Samantha. Who is... What kidnapper who injured your mother is going to say...
Who is Samantha? Have I got something wrong? Is there a Samantha? Or is she trying to say Savannah? Because it's pretty embarrassing if she's talking about Savannah Guthrie and calling her Samantha on national television. Her 19 years as a narcotics detective in LA notwithstanding.
Or Savannah. What kidnapper is going to say dear? That's a very... That one word jumped out at me. I immediately got on the phone with him, and I didn't tell him what was surprising, and that jumped out to him also. So I think, Trey, to your point or your question,
Kidnappers can be polite. Why would a kidnapper say dear? They don't care. So dear would be a lie. Dear Samantha. Some kidnappers can be really polite. We already know that they're well versed, right?
technically would use them further on down an investigation also. I think it's much more of a practice now to do it early on because they can be so impactful in such a powerful way. So yes, they're working with every aspect of this.
Yeah. We're working with Samantha. Look, it says her name right there on the screen on the picture. Savannah Guthrie. Oh, God, how embarrassing. Should we make a short out of that and make her famous?
Well, I mean, in a kidnapping case, time is so important. I might bring them in unless I had an immediate suspect, like a husband, like a boyfriend, which frequently it is. I would take advantage. And by the way, just so the whole world knows.
We don't need to know about your personal life, man. I think I'm getting half sentences and then just, I thought he's talking about his boyfriends and husbands.
Yes, they're working with every aspect of this.
Well, I mean, in a kidnapping case, time is so important. I might bring them in unless I had an immediate suspect, like a husband, like a boyfriend, which frequently it is. I would take advantage. And by the way, just so the whole world knows, the FBI is willing to help state and local law enforcement, even if it's not going to be prosecuted in federal court. So if there's ever a doubt, bring them in. Special Agent, thank you for your service to our country.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube.
Shut up, Sean. Subscribe.
Off the top here, let's ask about the video last night. You can throw it up against some of the stuff we've learned today, but what's your response to that video last night from the family?
Right. I think they're playing this out. This is about all they have right now, and they are, they're making it very clear that they will pay. The question really is, and I'm very skeptical of this, is this really a kidnapping? Does somebody really have her, and is she really alive? And I don't think we have the answers to that question right now. I don't think her proof of life has been credibly authenticated at this point. So I think
this is
you know
from an hour
you see them searching other places. You see them searching in the backyard there at that so-called manhole. They're still rounding out the investigation, and so I think they're giving some leeway for some possibility that this is not a kidnapping. And as I said, I'm very skeptical that it is one in the first place.
Chris, I want to go off of that. If not a kidnapping, then what do you think this could possibly be? Obviously, we're all just speculating. None of us have all the answers. But, you know, my ears did perk up when you said that this could potentially not be a kidnapping. Can you please explain further what you mean by that?
Well, if this was a kidnapping, it would be a very simple matter to authenticate and provide proof of life. Asking her a question that only she would know the answer to, or asking her to provide some information that only she would know. And the fact that the family hasn't paid the ransom at this point tells me that they're not to that point where they think this is a credible authentication, that they've had credible authenticators. So it could have been a home invasion that went bad. She's an 84-year-old woman living by herself out in the desert, no lights, maybe appear to be wealthy. So, and a lot of people come and go there. She's not doing her own lawn or taking care of her yard. She's not taking care of her pool. Somebody else does that. Repair people, delivery people. So there, you know, we don't know, but to me, that you have to allow for the possibility that this was something more or something other than a kidnapping.
Chris, there was this search last night and photographs being taken at the home of Savannah's sister, Annie, the other daughter of Nancy. Do you see any significance there?
No, we're on the outside looking in on this. I mean, literally. And I'm not reading as much into what happens at that house because I think the FBI is there quite a bit because they're working with them as a team, trying to work the kidnapping angle. And I think also at the same time they have to rule out, do everything they can to rule out that side of the family as a suspect. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I don't think that they are at this point because I'll say this. There's a big investigative team here, a lot of different agencies there. I just don't think they could hold that in. At this point, 7 or 8 days in, there would be leaks. And we're not hearing anything about that.
Chris, going back to your great point about providing proof of life and how that has not happened as far as we know. Earlier today, I was listening to some of the experts coming on our network, and they were sharing their perspective that at this point, the family, they thought, should not pay the ransom or offer communications like they were preparing to pay the ransom because it gave too much power and control over to the alleged kidnappers, because we think that's the scenario here. Would you go that far? Should the Guthrie family not be making indications that they're willing to pay if there has not been proof of life at this point?
Yeah, and yes, I agree with that. I don't think you appease and give them the power. I think I think that in this case, it is entirely up to the family whether they will pay to those Bitcoin coordinates. The 6 million. Remember now, it was 1 million not too long ago. All of a sudden, it's 6 million. I really think there's a third party here that's just playing with them, opportunists who think they can exploit this situation. And I think the family would have paid the $1 million if they had thought that there was a proper authentication. That they're talking about objects, floodlights, an Apple Watch, and a lot of that stuff could very well have been already out there on social media a long time ago. So I want something that comes from her personally.
Chris, just very quickly a follow-up, because you said you're still very skeptical that this even is a kidnapping, and you just suggested that maybe someone's out there exploiting the situation, messing with this family, which would be evil unto itself. So you think that potentially there is a separate crime involving Nancy and then unrelated someone exploiting it?
Right. I think that, we've already seen one arrest to that, very similar to that. Someone was arrested for a phony ransom demand. And, this wouldn't be the first time this ever happened. Believe me, this is not uncommon for someone to exploit the situation like this, as bad as it is. Yes, that's a separate crime.
Real quick on that, I just want to follow up on what Guy just asked you, because if that were the case, there's some sort of home invasion, she is no longer alive or what have you, it's not a kidnapping, and some random person is sending these messages. It seemed in that video that the family posted yesterday that they really genuinely believe that's who has their mom. Mm-hmm. What would the FBI's direction, if you would call it, to the family? Would you advise her to go ahead and post that video? That's where I get a little bit curious here, because we've had multiple people say basically what you have. At the same time, wouldn't you stop the family from putting such a video out if you weren't really sold that that was even who has her mom?
Well, it's normal for the family to want to grab onto this, and I don't want to, dash their hopes.
Yeah.
We hope this is a kidnapping.
Yeah.
But and you have to play this out, and I think that's what they're doing. I don't think the FBI would tell them not to do that. They would leave it up to the family, because you really don't want to get involved in a decision making one way or the other here. That's that crucial. There may be enough indicators in these ransom notes for them to have to play this out. They have to go through to the logical end here.
Chris Wecker, thanks so much for bringing your experience to the show tonight. Obviously, everyone's tuned in and hoping for a happy ending here as we just try to read the tea leaves. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
I don't think there's a happy ending to this. What would that look like? It would look like that she just drove away and she will be found and no one took her. And she's fine. And they didn't have to pay anything. That's the happy ending that we're hoping for. I don't think that's based in reality, unfortunately. Well, Sheriff Nanos, we look forward to hearing that you've been revoked and stripped of your title and powers. Hand in your badge and gun, Detective, Sheriff. Hand over the gun, Sheriff. Hang it up. Terrible, terrible. I think he should be jailed for that press conference, to be honest. I mean, it was horrendous. Horrendously bad, right? Yeah, I thought so. Anyway, we will go now and see what happens today. It's the ransom day in about, 12 hours? 12 hours to go. And the ransom must be paid. Will they pay it? Will they take a chance? What will happen then? I guess we'll be reporting on that this evening. After the events, yes. And if anything else, social media. Follow the Twitter. And support the channel on buymeacoffee.com/True Crime Metrix. And see you all tonight. Thanks for coming. Have a safe drive home. Be kind to each other. Don't kidnap anyone. And if you do, make sure they don't die. And if they do, return the body to the family so that they can... What did she say? Celebrate. Return her so we can celebrate with her body. Return her body so we can celebrate with her body. I'm sorry. It's very sad. It's very sad. What was the other thing? This is very valuable to us. Yeah. Sounds like they know she's dead. What did the poll say? 89% say she is definitely dead. Does anyone actually think Nancy Guthrie is alive? And 11% say that she is definitely alive. What makes you think that? 11%, that's about what? 3 3 people? 4 people? Yeah, if anyone's in comments, just before we go, what are the key indicators that Nancy Guthrie is still alive? She was bleeding quite a bit. She's got to have those meds quite a bit. She can't walk more than 30 yards or something. That guy yesterday when he was like, yeah, no, the sniffer dogs. Because we have special dogs that sniff, and they can sniff the blood. And when they sniff the blood, they get the scent, and then they can track. And, all right, to where? We're in the middle of the desert. She's 84 years old. It was 2 a.m. How far are they going to track? They're going to track to the car that she got in, and then they're going to lose the scent. But he didn't think that through. It was just funny, because you could tell that he just wanted to say something that made it seem like he had anything of value to offer, and he made a bad guess. But he couldn't get out of it, so he just went, if they went on foot. If we don't know, because there's no cameras, if they went on foot, the dogs, the special dogs that sniff, they would be able to track. And I think everybody else that was on the show just kind of let him off. They were just like, okay, whatever. Moving on, we don't need to embarrass you. But if I was there, it would have been different. Vanessa says there was one live he was conducting that interrupt him and push him off away from camera and was like, you're done. And the dude literally pulled him away from the camera. Sheriff was upset. Well, they pulled the sheriff away. Wow. Yeah, I bet he was upset. She can tell a story dead. Like, tell a story to death, like, over and over again. I get it, yeah, okay. Who? Nancy? Probably. 84 years old. I mean, what else has she got to do? Mahjong and Scrabble. Bridge. Definitely a bridge player, right? And a sherry drinker. Poor Nancy. Yeah, well, she's probably in a better place. I mean, not the mine shaft that she's stuffed in. That's horrible, and whatever's going to happen to her down there, I don't know. We shouldn't talk about it. We shouldn't talk about it. But, spiritually, metaphysically, in a better place. All right. Well, we can always hope. We can always hope that that there's a happy ending, right? A glorious happy ending. So, what are the theories at the moment? The sister and her husband, Rolo. Burglary gone wrong by the gardener. But you see, the thing about the burglary gone wrong with the gardener thing is that if it were a burglary gone wrong, you would probably just leave the body there. That's usually what happens. Because transporting a body, a bleeding body, putting it in your vehicle, that vehicle's done forever. You're never going to clean that up after it gets on the seats and into the fabrics, right? Remember what Detective Sergeant Jim Smith told us about white blood cells? White blood cells are thinner. Those are the ones that seep through the fabric. I think that's bullshit. But he was doing it to put pressure on a suspect. Burglary gone wrong. Yeah, so you just leave the body there. You're not going to think, oh shit, that burglary went wrong, so I know what I'll do. I'll take the body and hopefully someone on the internet will do a fake ransom letter, which will distract away from me just long enough for me to stuff her into a mine shaft and get across the border to El Salvador. Yeah, okay. Well, that doesn't really work. Which is what that guy was saying, which when he was saying it, sounded really good. But when you think about it, actually, you would just leave the body there. Or what if the 84-year-old lady fought back and scratched the assailant, and then she got the DNA with the fingernails, and then you had to remove the body. Well, just cut off their hands. That's a lot easier, isn't it? You put them in a bag. You don't have to worry about DNA, and they're easy to ditch. I mean, you put that in a garbage can just, the day of pickup, no one's going to find it. Those hands are gone. You do it 2 different bins. Or would you want to do it in the same one? Because they're so small. Yeah, I think the same one. Because they're so small that it's not an increase. But if they're in 2 different places, that's 2 different places that they could be located, right? So if you're throwing hands away, throw them in the same bag. That's, probability-wise, that's your best option to avoid capture. Okay? With that final thought, we will say good night. Thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting, supporting the channel, for moderating the channel, and being part of the channel. And a special thank you to Nina Decker, who supported the channel with 5 cups of coffee on buymeacoffee.com/True Crime Metrix or PayPal. Oh, we didn't check PayPal. Do we have to give a thank you? We always like to give a thank you. No. Well, that's easier. That's easier. And that's okay. That's okay. Good night, and we'll see you tomorrow on Ransom Day Live on Metrix.